Well, hey, on today's episode, we're talking about the journey from music to small business to opening up food halls across Central Florida. Come on, welcome to the show, Jonathan Bucklew. Awesome. Well, we are live. Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate it. It's cool. We were just talking before we got started here. I feel like you're kind of like the Lakeland legend, man. You've been here for a while. You've done a number of things.
The Lakeland legend. That's funny. I certainly don't feel like a legend here.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
cool.
I've been in Lakeland a long time though.
Yeah, which is awesome, man. So you've probably seen a lot of change. I moved here for the first time. I moved here in 2014.
Okay.
Went to college over at Southeastern, and when you're in college, you're kind of trapped there a little bit. So I don't feel like I really experienced Lakeland until like 2015 or 16. But you've seen a lot, right? Talk to us a little bit about like what you've seen. Kind of what was it like when you grew up here?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on the north side of town. I went to Paget Elementary and Lake Gibson. It was junior high at that point, and then high school. Couple years into high school, I was like, forget it. I'm not doing school anymore. I'm out of here. So bailed, wanted to be a rock star. So I convinced my mom to let me finish some homeschool curriculum, get my GED, and carry on with my life, much to her chagrin.
Well, you kind of did that a little bit, right?
I did,
You kind of went through the rock star life.
I did.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate, man. I've had a wild ride.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I played in some local bands. Those who are old school Lakelanders in the music scene remember Dennis and Mars probably. Yeah. That was me and my buddy Eric and my brother and his friend Dan. So the four of us were in Dennis and Mars for a long time. And then I want to say it was 03 maybe. Maybe it was 04 when I joined Copeland.
That's awesome.
So yeah, those are some local heroes too. Aaron's such a great singer, songwriter. He's got a studio here. I think Eric's still playing music too. Eric was a singer for Dennis and Mars. For
sure. It's cool to see, really cool. Cause I remember Copeland. I grew up in Georgia, but I remember Copeland and I remember stuff like that, like in seeing that like centered around coming out of Lakeland, it's cool to see. Drums, was that something that you grew up? Like, did you have family members who were musical or?
Yeah, my uncle, he sent me a drum kit for my 9th birthday. We just moved to Florida. I think it was like 1987. And I was like, I want to be a drummer like my uncle. And so he sent me a little drum kit. I used to play in my room and played in junior high and a little bit in high school.
Yeah, and just figured it out. Do you have lessons or just went on your own?
Nothing of any worth mentioning.
Sure,
maybe a lesson or two here or there, or kind of learning the basics, like in middle school band or junior high band.
Yeah.
But I've never been like a music reader or anything like that. Just kind of like. Just a feel kind of a guy.
For sure.
I don't think I'm technically fantastic, but I have a.
But you can play.
I have a feel. I have a vibe.
That's great. Well, obviously a vibe enough to be a part of a couple different great brands. Dude, I'm not from Lakeland, so like I said, I just moved here like 2014, 15. So remind me your first, the Lakeland baby. Yeah, remind me that'll be my nickname now. Let's see that stick.
I like
remind me the first band that you were in.
Dennis and Mars.
It's Mars. What was the genre?
I mean, just like, we used to say like space rock. It was like, I don't know if you remember that band Hum or Failure, which is kind of like really guitar heavy. Just kind of like, not like pop rock, but just kind of like slow indie rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah. I don't think we were anywhere.
I guess you could say emo. Maybe that was the thing back then too.
Yeah, 100%. That
emo.
makes sense. Yeah.
I remember that.
When I was in high school, I was in a band too. I don't think we did some cool things. Like we recorded at, there's a studio in Atlanta where I think at the time, like Under Oath's drums were still there because they had just recorded.
What, Glow in the Dark?
Yeah.
Matt Goldman did a lot. I did a lot of records with Matt Goldman.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
If
I remember
Mars
right,
recorded with him. Copeland did.
Yeah. There's
other bands.
It was really interesting because we were all like
My Hotel Year.
Yeah, we were all like 16 years old, like, and doing this like first like kind of EP album for us, and there's a pretty like large like party bar scene right next door, so it was it was like funny because we also didn't have ton of fun, so we were like the middle of the night. We got there at like 10 p.m. and went till like 6 a.m. So, but anyways, that
little alley in the back of Little 5 Points, you mean? that studio, or
Yeah,
his
I
newer
think
one
so.
after that?
Dude, I think that's actually
It's like right behind the Vortex burger spot.
which is so good.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
kind of now it's kind of the touristy thing to do, but I remember
Yeah.
like we would live like an hour from there, and that was like
Yeah.
the space we always went to.
There was a lot of soul in that
Mm-hmm.
studio. I love that place.
Yeah, so cool, man. Small world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we were like really screamo. I feel like was the title for it at the time. You know,
Yeah.
just like really heavy. Like
Yeah.
it was actually heavy drums too.
Yeah.
But
those
that's
are
cool.
those are all our old homies, man. Under Oath guys, Amberlin guys, Dennis and Mars, Copeland. Like, I don't know, there's probably a handful I'm forgetting, but yeah, a lot of Central Florida boys.
That's cool, man. What was the move like for when they like what was that move from like your first band to moving over to Copeland? Did they just reach out and like what kind of brought that on?
Yeah, so I had left Dennis and Mars almost a year prior.
Mm-hmm.
It was on a tour with Switchfoot. Dennis and Mars was on tour with Switchfoot, and I ended up going home on that tour. That was a weird stage of life. But and then what's funny is I think it was almost exactly a year later, Rusty, who was the original drummer for Copeland, left on a Switchfoot tour. And I remember Kyle Greiner, who's like one of my really good buddies back then, he was managing the bands, including Copeland. He called and said, "Hey, Aaron and Brian and James want to know if you want to fly out and finish the Copeland tour. They're on tour with Switchfoot." And I was like,
Yeah, that
let's
sounds
do it.
great.
Yeah.
Kind of feels like where you left off, like the year before.
And it's funny because like it was at the first show was at the Norva in Norfolk, Virginia, and I remember walking in, and Switchfoot was sound checking, and they stopped and they all just started clapping. They're like, "We knew you'd finish the Switchfoot tour."
He's back.
Yeah,
That's cool.
it was
man.
really funny.
Yeah, dude, funny because I know we talked about this before you got here, but I met Rusty, the original drummer, when we moved to PA for a couple years. He was actually the drummer at the church that we went to, and like my like cousin was like, "Dude, that guy used to be the drummer for Copeland." I was like, "Oh, dude, I know Copeland." Yeah, just full circle, man. It's crazy. Well, how long were you?
I don't know him. I think I've made
super nice guy.
Yeah,
He's great.
a couple of times.
Yeah.
He has good parts on. He recorded Beneath Medicine Tree, which was the first Copeland full length. He's got great parts. I played those for a while.
Yeah, great dude, super kind. He's great drummer. He's crushing it at that church up there too. I mean, he's like great drummer, you know.
Yeah.
But it's cool. How long were you touring with them? When did a couple years or?
So with Copeland, we did. I mean, I was the drummer for Copeland. I still record with Aaron for Copeland stuff. I just don't tour anymore. We did a farewell tour in 2010 to go kind of on hiatus. I did another project for a couple years after that. And as I was kind of doing another project, I started a company, a furniture company, started selling some pieces I'd made for my home.
Yeah.
And that kind of grew into a full-time company. And I was kind of like, I got to keep running this. I can't tour. So kind of stopped with that, with the other band. It was called States. And then we decided to make a record again in 2014, Copeland. That was, I think that was Ixora. So yeah, we made that record in Lakeland at Aaron's studio. And we were all here for a couple months. We just thought it'd be great to get together, make another record. And we were just going to make a record and put it out. But it just kind of kept growing and growing. And then Paramore, which they were old friends. Their very first show was opening up for Copeland in Nashville, which is a funny story.
Wild.
Yeah. They were doing like an evening with kind of a tour.
Yeah.
And so they were doing theaters. And they said, you guys should come support your new record and open up for Paramore on this kind of evening with tour. It would be a nice vibe fit. And they were like, okay, I think we'll do it. And I'm like, I can't do it. So that was the first tour I didn't do. It was 2015.
Yeah.
And I remember the bus pulling away from, the Dixieland area after loading up. And I was like, my heart kind of fell apart.
Oh, man, yeah.
I should be on that bus.
It's
that
tough
was like,
too.
yeah. So that was 11 or 12 years after I joined the band. Was the first tour I didn't do with Copeland.
And it just felt like you needed to spend time on what you've created in that business.
Yeah, I had 2 or 3 employees, and I was working long days and growing a small company, and it just wasn't the right move. It was like one tour, and I just couldn't pull away for 2 months.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that. Like I've seen it too. Like the furniture company you've created, was that just kind of like a hobby that grew to what it is today, or?
Yeah, kind of. It birthed out of, over the years of traveling, becoming a design enthusiast and loving architecture, furniture design, home design, like just kind of just being a nut about that stuff and loving these cool furniture pieces I would find at like ABC Home and Carpet in New York, or like this cool furniture place in Seattle, but not being able to afford to buy those pieces. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I could make something like this.
100%.
I started making stuff for my my home here in South Lakeland that I was renovating. And when we were doing a renovation of a master bathroom, there was a tub that was more money than we had in the budget. And so we decided we would sell a piece of furniture to pay for that tub. And you have to come up with a shop name to sell something on Etsy. And this was 2011 when Etsy was a lot smaller and mostly handmade stuff.
Yeah.
So listed a table, a dining table to sell on Etsy to pay for a bathtub. And by the following summer, I had so many orders coming in through Etsy for made to order pieces. And I was on tour with states, and I was like, I asked my buddy Dean, I'm like, you got to help me make some furniture when I get home. I don't know how I'm going to do all this. And it just kind of grew out of that.
That's cool though. Have you always been kind of handy, like in creating stuff like that? Or
yeah, I think so. I just growing up, I always felt comfortable with tools in my hand and doing home renovation projects around the house with that, and working on cars, and just not being afraid to figure something out.
Yeah.
And so that's the, I think that's just part of my personality and my, nature and nurture a little bit, because my dad was just always let's figure it out. Let's take apart the transmission. That's fine. Let's build a go-kart. That's fine. Let's renovate the bathroom. That's okay. We'll figure it out. We don't know how to tile. We'll learn. So yeah, I think that is just part of who I've always been. And so it just kind of lent itself well to, making my own pieces. And I learned how to weld when I was younger. I worked at a trailer manufacturing company.
Yeah.
And kind of grew into like welding trailer frames together. Me and my buddy, who's also
carried over into what you do now. Yeah.
We actually made our band trailers out of that place.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so cool. It was called Tropical Trailers on the north side.
Dude, it's cool. It's cool to see when like you have something that is a hobby that grows into, oh, this could be my thing.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
Was there ever a point where you were like, like, I'm sure, because that's what I hear a lot from people who have that same experience. It's like it's a hobby that grows to a thing where it's like now it becomes a business, and you weren't necessarily anticipating that. And you're like, oh, I didn't want to run a business, so to speak. I wanted to like create stuff and make it. Was that difficult transition, or do you feel like you've kind of had a business mindset?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I've always had a bit of a business mindset. I think in the moment, I never have been great at measuring in the past. I think I'm working on that now, but I've never been great at accepting what is successful. It never felt like I was successful. Even in Copeland, I think, all the guys would agree. Like it was hard to feel like we'd made it or we were a successful band, because there was always, the next record deal, or Sony or Columbia wasn't putting behind this record what they committed to. And so we really just need to get that next record and get the right push. And it was about the next publishing deal or the right tour season lining up. And, it was only in hindsight when I could really sit back and have an appreciation for the beauty that those years were. And I'm trying to carry that forward. So, I think, with the furniture company, it was also hard to feel like it was a successful business. It just felt like a little side hustle that I couldn't stop the train, kind of.
Yeah.
But I genuinely feel that success is at, the crossroads of preparedness and opportunity. And, if I wasn't prepared financially, I couldn't have done the business, because I had to live on very little to do that. And if I was strapped with, overwhelming debt and things like that, I couldn't launch a company. I couldn't take the profits and reinvest in tooling and take as little home as possible. So, being prepared, being smart, staying out of debt, living on less than what you make, and being in control of your own personal finances, really provides the, the ability to take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves.
For sure. Yeah, that's so true. That's the conundrum of like going after your dream and what you feel passionate about is you never know when the the door will open,
Yeah.
right? Like there can be an opportunity that will open and it's the perfect timing. Like,
Right.
like for you, for instance, it was kind of just happenstance. You needed to buy a tub, sold
Yeah,
a table.
right.
People loved it.
When I was in bands, I never would have thought I was going to be a furniture maker.
Sure. Yeah.
And then when I was a furniture maker, I never thought I would have owned food halls. And when I was setting out to build the food hall, I never thought I would be the owner of the bar in the food hall. And like,
but that is
I
the
don't
thing
know.
that I think
Whatever.
that's unique about life too, that I felt in my own life is I feel like there have every like weird opportunity or thing that I've done has in some way prepared me for the thing that I was going to do like in 5 years or 10 years down the road. Like my first job working in like financial aid at a college, didn't love it, but it prepared me for like the next job that I had like at a church, which prepared me for the next job that I had, you know, in school. And then I moved to, I've done a number of different things, but everything is just kind of like built on top of that where I feel like, oh, that thing that I learned how to do is like actually helped me be a little bit better at, you know, you having this business in furniture, I'm sure has helped with what you've gone on to now with like the couple different food halls. You're
sure,
running, right?
design, build, you know, the interiors and all the custom stuff and the furniture. Yeah. I mean, the joinery, literally everything in there we built out of my shop.
That's cool.
Cut
yeah,
up the
and it is
shipping
a
containers in the parking lot, poured
Yeah.
the concrete counters, built all the furniture, all the steel structures in there, all the fencing and railing,
yeah,
the shelving.
and it is a unique vibe in Lakeland. I
Yeah,
don't think
for
there's
sure.
anything very similar like to that that feel of what you guys have built there. And maybe for people that are listening that may not be fully centered in Lakeland or around, but maybe explain a little bit about what the Joinery and now Depot 303 like are.
The joinery is a food hall. So we have 7 restaurants and a bar inside. It's it's a collection of varying cuisines and different owners of kind of quick service. I think it's just like a cool industrial vibe, but it's like light and Florida and fresh and clean at the same time. It's right in the heart of our downtown on the downtown lake. It was formerly a brewery, which is why
I
there are
remember
tanks
that.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were licensed to brew in those tanks, and we had been working through hiring a brewmaster and trying to steer the direction of the brewery right as we were opening up. And we opened our doors January 20th of 2020. And I don't know if you remember February of 2020
Jeez.
when COVID hit.
What
So
a
that
time
was-
to open something.
Yeah, in the food industry too.
Jeez, yeah.
So that was a brutal first year.
I can't imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just kind of, it just wrecked a lot of people's lives, including mine in personally in some ways. You know, I was married for 20 years, and now I'm single in my late 40s, which is weird.
Yeah.
So the joinery is was something that my ex-wife and I built together. The beauty of that is a lot to do with who she was and how talented she was at putting the visuals together. You know, and I think as our lives have separated, she wants to distance herself quite a bit from that, which is understandable. And
Yeah.
you know, I want her to find healing. But yeah, so that represents a weird season of transition and time in my life, and in building it, it was kind of a culmination of everything of who I was and who we were. And yeah, it's a very special project. I didn't set out to build a food hall.
Yeah.
This came about because I was looking to move my furniture company to an area where I might have more of a local market, like someplace like, you know, Nashville or Seattle or Portland, or maybe
Sure.
Kansas City's kind of cool, or like Albuquerque or Phoenix or something, you know, somewhere where there's just like a little bit more of a modern home design vibe than what we were seeing.
And
in
maybe a
Central
larger
Florida.
market too.
Sure,
is a reality.
larger market, yeah. But I still, you know, even in my furniture company, I don't think I sold a single piece in the state of Florida until around 2015 or 16.
Wow.
So it was all just getting shipped to, you know, more urban areas.
Yeah.
So as I was kind of thinking about, you know, where to move the company, I was kind of challenged by Steve Scruggs, who's in charge of the LADC, just to rethink Lakeland, and why don't I be a part of cultivating here what I missed about those areas, and stop hiding in a little warehouse on Cumbie Road, and maybe find a place to put a showroom and have a more visible shop and participate in the local small business world a little bit. Because I was just kind of quiet. I just kind of had a little shop on Cumbie Road, and a freight truck would pull in, pick up the pieces, and another freight truck would come in and drop off some lumber and steel. And I was just kind of moving that direction for a long time. So I started looking for, okay, if I was going to have a local presence, where would that be? started looking at some areas to grow a furniture shop and a showroom. Found a couple properties I was interested in.
Yeah.
Wesley Steve Scruggs plugged me in with a few people who were just kind of like helping me think through where to be in Lakeland, who were aware of like where the development was happening. One of those guys is Wesley Beck, who's a great friend, and he's been kind of a mentor in some ways.
That's cool.
For me, in a lot of ways actually. So as I was kind of troubleshooting a couple different locations and where there might be some CRA grants, we met with Nicole Travis, who was in charge of the CRA at that time, and Patricia Henley, I think her name was.
Mm-hmm.
They're no longer there, but they were awesome for Lakeland and what they did with the CRA. But they kind of challenged me to think a little bit bigger than just a shop and a showroom, and maybe do like maybe a market where there's other makers, and we kind of have collective showrooms. And we could look at areas where kind of the streams are flowing, and where there might be some momentum and some grant money to help with some build out and maybe take on a bigger project. So looked at lots of different locations, and they all kind of fell through for one reason or another. And I was ready to kind of throw in the towel when Wesley and a team of investors bought what was the Lakeland Brewing Company. Yeah. And then he just kind of challenged me to think about doing something there. And I was like, well, it's not going to be a shop or a showroom. This doesn't make sense for what I was thinking. He's like, well, maybe it could be a showroom. You could build something out. What could it be?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, there's this place in Denver called The Source that I've just loved forever.
Yeah.
Kind of like a food hall vibe. And there's this place in Philly that we would go to. It was kind of like this. Or what about the one in downtown LA? And so I start thinking about all these markets, and I'm like, okay, what about the market in Seattle? It's kind of like a fish market, but I could see how you could take the different vendors. What if we took a typical food hall and we inverted it? We put the seating in by the windows, and we had smaller seating areas, so you're not like in a big hall. And we just started troubleshooting some ideas about it. Sat down with the architect who I love in town. I think he does great work. His name's John Kirk, who's one of my favorite local architects. So we just sat down and on a napkin just kind of mapped out what this could be as a food hall. And I was like, okay, well, I'm a foodie. Love to eat. So
same.
And I love cuisines. I love different cuisines. Like I Thai food, and I mean, I don't know. It's the only one I said, but I mean, I just love all kinds of different cuisines, right? So I've had a lot of time to travel and
it's cool.
And a very broad palette. So it's like, that would be fun to cultivate something here like that. So I thought, okay, well, I've got a team of guys who could do a lot of the custom building. And then we could lease it out to Grove Roots in Winter Haven for the brewery, or Coppertail in Tampa. Both of those guys fell through kind of last minute, and they both were the ones who encouraged us to take the licensing on and take the bar on. So I set out to make a shop and a showroom, and now I'm in a food hall and a bar, and then I built another one. So,
but it's awesome. That actually makes me. I mean, I love it. My son specifically, I don't know why, but he's 4 and he loves the joinery. I think it's the combination.
I know why he loves it, because we have Mayday at the joinery.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. He loves it because he's like, whenever he's so strategic with his thoughts, like when we're like, hey, we're going to go to this place, he's like, okay, that place has lollipops, or this place has ice cream, or whatever. So he's like,
Mayday's ice cream is
let's
so
go.
good.
Oh, it's so good.
So good.
And, but going back to that, it's cool that like the creative mind that you had there, and not just of like, hey, how do I create a visual for a place for people to see my furniture, but how do I take it a step beyond that? And honestly, what I think Lakeland is, a couple of things that Lakeland's really great at is, especially in the last few years, is like small businesses. You guys got Catapult right there too.
Well, that was starting to come alive in 2015 and 16, right around the time that we were starting to look around at what are we going to do. Yeah, and they've been fantastic for it. Yeah,
and these like probably what you guys have in those the food areas there is maybe places that wouldn't necessarily step into like their own brick and mortar, but have a place now with great cuisine that can be like in a community setting, which is another great thing that I think Lakeland does is community.
Yeah. I would agree with you. I think everybody talks about their community, and lots of people think their community is great, but ours really is great.
It 100% is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of my best buddies are bar owners from a block away, and restaurant owners. And my furniture company, I'm building out Hakucho downtown, like all the interior stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the same chef who did Sabu at the Joinery.
It's a cool spot.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I haven't been there yet. We're going there, and we have a reservation. Like that's how far out we're thinking, especially with like 2 kids. But we have a reservation in 2 weeks to go there. So
Yeah, and Marcos from 1961. I built a lot of stuff for the rooftop, and we're now talking about renovation project for Main 61, and we're talking about him coming into Depot possibly to fill in the last spot that we have, and then, and then I like one of my favorite chefs in the state of Florida is Farrell Alvarez, who owns Rooster in the Till in Tampa, and so I was like, got to get him to do a concept in Lakeland.
Oh,
how could I convince him to come to Lakeland?
Yeah,
and so he owns Gaito Taqueria.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's that restaurant.
I did not know
group.
that. Yeah. And that's the other reason why my son loves that is the quesadillas there. So
good.
Yeah.
And then Super Duper Spot, he was he still is. He's a chef from Tampa. He's going to do a concept in Depot. But he owned a restaurant called Ichikoro. COVID hit them at a time where they were growing, and that just
familiar.
became a mess. But that was a really big ramen spot in Tampa. Fantastic restaurant.
Okay.
And he's built out a number of other concepts. So he's a great chef. Love Noel and what he does. So we got him in there. We've got Blue Dog, local heroes, amazing craft barbecue.
That's great. Yeah.
Ryan's a local hero. He's crushing it at Sabu. That was his first thing. And as soon as he made ramen for us, we're like, dude, you are in. Let's do it.
It's great. Yeah.
And we went to St. Augustine to get Mayday to come in. They also have a concept called Cousteau's Waffles. We kind of wanted Belgian liege waffles. And so we're trying to convince them, do ice cream, but also do the waffles.
Yeah,
and they're like, let's see how it goes. And they're just crushing it on ice cream. They're like, we can't even breathe to do waffles. Their line is like,
it is
to
cool,
the door
man.
from the moment we open till we close.
It's cool. I've not been out to Mulberry yet to see Depot 303. I know it's kind of newer as we're talking about this couple weeks or a month or so, but it is cool to see what you've created there and like how much in the perfect, like just the most beautiful spot I think in Lakeland you can have, like right there next to Lake Mirror.
Agreed, but 10 years ago it was not.
Yeah.
That's just a testament to where we're growing and how we're doing.
And it is cool to see. I love that, like for you and then like many others and a couple that even have been on the show here too, have just like really invested into Lakeland and like how cool it actually is instead of taking something out elsewhere and seeing like the impact it can have. It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, I think I had a little bit too much of the, there's trash on the ground. Somebody should clean that up. Like, I don't like Lakeland. We don't have good stuff here. And then, if you can switch your perspective and say, well, I am here. I'll pick it up. So be a part of the change you want to see here. Right? It's fertile ground. Like there's so much opportunity here. There's so much momentum, and there are so many people here who want you to be successful genuinely. And a lot of them are, quote unquote, your competitors.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally building out a pickleball concept with Jason Ellis. And we're going to do a restaurant, bar, and pickleball complex. And he owns Cobb and Penn, Good Time, and Rec Room, and Maritime.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
And it's like, and I owned a couple food halls, so you would think like we'd be competitors. No, it's co-opetition, man. We want the success for our community. We want more and better concepts. And Marcos is the same way. He wants to partner up on stuff. And, Ryan's the same way he's doing Hakusho, and Chris is doing Black and Brew, Chris MacArthur. I mean, we have just so many great business owners and restaurant owners. Food and beverage scene is really growing. And it's a great community of owners who really want 100%. Each other's success.
Yeah. And I don't think we get how cool like Lakeland has gotten over the last 5-10 years or so without that kind of like co-working mentality. It's not like you versus me. It's like, hey, there's enough people here. Like if we're just have each other's back, like we can all like have success and actually have a really cool place to live,
Yeah, and during COVID, we were all like running around with those foggers, like sterilizing each other's businesses and having bourbon late at night. Like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Get us through this.
Imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, I think I remember that pretty well because we were here. You guys did what you could, right? Like some stuff was, I guess the business had the option to be like out, like you could pre-order things like that.
It was a weird position because like I didn't own a single restaurant, and I wasn't the owner of the restaurant anyway. I leased space to them. But I had to open the doors to the public. So it wasn't just like, how do my employees and I want to handle this? How do I want to handle this with my employees? And how do I want to allow the other business owners to handle the regulations, how they would handle them and navigate that?
With their own employees.
Suddenly I was president of a small country called the Joinery with like 3 political parties. And it was, man, that was rough. That was rough.
I can't imagine.
It doesn't matter what I did. Half of everybody was mad at me. And I was like, I don't know. I'm just a dude. I just wanted to make cool restaurants and spaces. And
it's got to make the start of Depot 303 feel like a breeze.
Oh,
you know?
Yes. Yeah. But that and the fact that I have such an amazing team of people.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, I have two, I think for a concept like the joinery, you have to focus very heavily on form as much as function, right? I think you need the beauty of the space. And I think what my ex-wife set out to design, I want to preserve that and maintain that brand and also develop new ones. So I have Christy Scott, who's like, she's a director of brand experience, but she's more of like a creative director now that we're kind of growing. And then I have Madison Sharp, who is my director of operations, but she's kind of more of a chief operations officer now as we're just kind of growing and running 2 food halls and developing a pickleball concept, and then thinking about, okay, we're going to start to consult for another food hall down the road and all these bigger projects. And it's just growing. And now we're trying to manage the design build of things too, kind of through our little system of people. But I have such a great like system of leadership and great people who, running the shop, running the operations, running the creative side of things, and then spilling out below in management and front of house management.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it without my team. And it's just a sweet spot right now where we could take advantage of this opportunity to help Mulberry do a food hall. It's
cool. Yeah, we don't have a shortage of great people in this area. It's what I love, like having this show like so local as it is I've got to meet like, we have really cool people in Lakeland. Like from a number of people that I've talked to, like, from business owners, the guys over at like Bevy Athletics who just started. And there's a guy named Jod. It's one of my favorite, like, it's a cool conversation we have with a guy named Jod David.
Is that Michael's company, Michael MacArthur?
No, but he is doing one soon. I didn't know,
no,
but that's
I forgot
okay.
The name of
yeah,
it, so
but I think me and him have been talking about
cool.
having a show together.
Yeah,
I'm getting into running, and I want to run with him, but I just can't. He's so fast.
I'm sure he's fast. Yeah.
He pushes those 2 girls, and he's like going like 5-minute miles.
Wild.
I'm not up there. Yeah.
He's another Lakeland gem. He's a great artist.
He is. Yeah, he's awesome. I'm excited. I think we're working on having him on the show, and hopefully the next like month or so. But
cool.
Yeah, it is. It is cool to see. Like, it's exciting to have that. I can't wait to get out to Depot 3032 and check that out. The pickleball concept, I'm excited for. How real is that? Like, or how far away do you think that something like that is?
It's not terribly far away. I mean, I guess it's all relative, right? It'll probably be. I think it'll be late next year before we can be open to the public. But because of the space we're working on and when it's available and what our plans for renovation are. But I've kind of fallen in love with the game in the last year and a half or so.
Yeah.
What I love about it is that it's active and it's social. I just love the social part of it.
Yeah.
You're close enough, and it's like to chat and goof off on the court, and it's so easy to go from like 0 to start. Like if you want to play tennis, first of all, you're like 100 million feet from your opponent.
Well, I played tennis in high school.
And you got to have like 6 months of lessons before you can even like have a good rally, right?
Yeah.
So like pickleball, your first day picking up a paddle, you can at least play the game.
You can feel pretty good about yourself.
Right. But then you can get like super competitive and like really good.
Yeah.
So it's been super fun to get into that game.
That's cool.
And I'm seeing concepts start to grow in other areas. Like Charlotte has one I really love called Rally Pickleball, and they're marrying the hospitality, food and beverage side with the great gameplay of pickleball. And there are lots of growing companies that are focused on the like an athletic club kind of vibe with it. But I really want to focus on the hospitality experience and building an inspiring, cool space that you can come into and enjoy along with playing the game.
Yeah.
And being able to rent a court just like you would rent a bowling lane, right? And
That's
so you can
cool.
be social and do that. But whereas like we have great public courts, but they're so crowded and it's so competitive. Like, if you're wanting to get into it, man, good luck in the evenings or weekends because you're stacking your paddles and you get one game and you got to wait 30 minutes.
Well, that's what I've heard too. And to be fair, I've played it once. And that was like a couple years ago. I was gifted a paddle recently, but I still haven't been able to go out and play. Like I know there's one off New Jersey that's tends to be pretty crowded. And then
during the week, during the days, it's great. You can go learn.
In the middle of the day, it might be a little hot too, but you pay for it. Yeah. But then there's Kelly Rec too, which I have a bunch of friends who play there. It's just, going at night, like getting the kids to bed, running out there for a quick hour. It's not always the easiest, but I'm excited for that. That's awesome. I love like hearing stories like yours and what you've done for Lakeland and just even bringing like more depth into creativity with what you were gifted with and kind of expanding upon it from going from furniture to now it's this idea of how do we make like great community and food halls and also, you know, exhibit like what is kind of the art of our area too.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Dude, thank you so much for being on the show.
Very kind of you
I always
to
do this of just like kind of 1 more minute left. What are some ways that people can just kind of, if they're interested in the Joinery or Depot 303, what are some ways they can get connected to like you or those places?
I mean, easily through social media. But yeah, directly my contact information is pretty clear on our contact or about pages of the websites and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm very accessible. I'm just a dude.
just a dude
here. Yeah, who wants to play pickleball in a couple hours actually.
Nice.
But, I guess to wrap up, man, I would just say I love this community. I love this town. Every time I thought about leaving, I was just pulled into staying here by who the people are here. And the fact that, you know, I went to school with my dentist and we used to surf together, you know, like you don't have that anywhere you go where you have that much or that deep of roots. And I genuinely love the people here. I love the community here. I love what we do as a city. And I think if you are ever interested in what opportunities are there, just start asking around.
Yeah.
It's a great place. It's a great place to build a business. It's a great place to find community.
That's awesome, man. Well, John, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.